Sir Clive Sinclair, what a legend. His story will be familiar to many entrepreneurs. Although not all his ventures were successful and he experienced financial ups and downs as a result along the way, he was not deterred and was a very driven inventor and innovator. His contribution to the early development of affordable personal computers has, no doubt, made a positive contribution to the world of IT that has come to play such an important part in the world of business today. An icon of home computing, he created devices that were enjoyed by millions, the majority of whom would have been unable in the 1980s when his computers were launched to purchase the expensive models on the market. Even Sinclair's so-called failures reveal an inventor who sought to solve everyday problems rather than amass a personal fortune. Anticipating electrified personal transportation, Sinclair developed an electric car, then an electric bike, long before the vogue they both enjoy today. Many think that the C5 was before its time, and there is a kind of irony that all major car manufacturers are now committed to producing electric vehicles, although, of course, they look nothing like Sir Clive's work and are much more complex, not to mention safer, than the C5. These later inventions may have been a business failure, but they were a triumph of the will and the imagination. Sinclair long ago secured his legacy as the father of the home computer. But time is only now vindicated his other creations. Now at least we have the chance to catch up. Anyway, our bearded inventor Sir Clive Sinclair was so respected that he even starred in his own ZX Spectrum game, A Day in the Life. And I have to say, there's been surprisingly few video games to feature real game industry personalities on the screen, especially featuring a well-known games industry figure such as Sir Clive Sinclair. So let's get into this game. Well, the game was created by Stephen J. Redman and published by Micromega. Now, Micromega primarily published games sent to them by bedroom programmers in the early days of the Spectrum, including a number of hugely successful and innovative titles such as 3D Death Chase and Codename Matt. I like that 3D Death Chase, I have to say, and I've done a video of that. I'll leave a link at the end. They specialised in games with a strong 3D element and promoted this on their packaging. Their games had a good reputation but were not the most popular. They also released games for the Jupiter Ace and the Commodore 64. And they were credited for about 20 games from 1982 to 1985. By mid-1984, the Crash magazine commented that they always looked forward to a new Micromega release. Unfortunately for them, the company closed a year later. Sad. So what would you be doing in a game that stars Sir Clive Sinclair in a playable role? Well, there are so many possibilities that spring to mind. So many ways in which this legendary figure could have inspired a game designer. Perhaps maybe they would harness his inventive side, combining objects in a puzzle game to create weird machines. Perhaps they could make a business sim, putting you in control of Sinclair research and managing his profit margins. Heck, you could even put Clive behind the wheel of his infamous Sinclair C5 for a 50 miles per hour racing game. Actually, I think they've already done that. A Day in the Life is actually a much more down-to-earth affair than even those ideas, as seems fitting for the Spectrum. Instead, the game actually offers a chance to spend a day as Sir Clive Sinclair, just as the title suggests. Not even a day spent running Sinclair research, just a day where nothing really happens. The kind of day anyone could have. No one ever said that the British games had to be exciting, did they now? So let's have a look at the first level, which involves getting out of bed, getting a suit from the cupboard, dodging a TV, a spectrum and a cat in doing so. Then you go upstairs to collect a key, dodging what appears to be an alien, and then going back downstairs through the door. Unusually, all points are assessed and awarded after the level is completed. Like I said, all very normal. Although it does feel right that Clive has a spectrum in his house, and quite fitting that it suffers from colour clash, the effect that happens when two sprites overlap. And if you grew up in Britain in the 80s when this game was made, you'll probably notice a resemblance between the angry Telly and evil Edna, the TV-shaped witch in the 1981 cartoon Will-o'-the-Wisp. And I don't think this is a coincidence. Oh, and Clive seems to have misplaced his body. I forgot to mention that. I guess the Spectrum doesn't quite offer the graphical resolution necessary to draw an entire Clive Sinclair complete with body and limbs in a way that his face could still be recognisable. So what you get instead is one giant head with a beard, glasses and a balding dome. Which is completely understandable given the hardware restrictions, but when you see this head float out of bed, down the stairs and into the streets, it does look ever so slightly surreal. And as you merge into the streets, I'd like to say that a sense of internal logic starts to form. On the second screen, you'll encounter your first fellow human, another giant floating head. But yet on subsequent screens, more floating heads are joined by little stick men, blowing any sense of consistency clean out of the water. Elsewhere, Sir Clive takes a casual trip to the pub and has to dodge giant dancing beer and wine glasses just to get to the bar. Perhaps the weirdest sight is when you travel between the screens by catching the train, the giant Clive head docking flush into a whole freight carriage and beaming out from the doors as the train pulls out of the station. It has to be, without exaggeration, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a game. I'm guessing this is just a product of the generation that we lived in then, with Monty Python or the contemporary punk comedies like The Young Ones. I love The Young Ones, such great viewing on a Sunday night. So anyway, let's have a look at the game. Well, there you go. I suppose when it comes to the actual gameplay of a day in the life, there's very little to write home about. It's just a simple collect 'em up where you have to avoid baddies to survive, and it's actually quite dull and repetitive to play. Sure, there are some admirable attempts to make the maze gameplay challenging, particularly in the patrol routines of the baddies. Some will actually pursue you and you need to be goaded out of key areas so that there's room for giant head Clive to reach his objective. Though most seem to ramble around aimlessly and oblivious to your presence. Stupid people. I have to say, on the screens that are particularly crowded with enemies, things can get complicated as two or more of them might bump to one another and change direction, making their patrol routine somewhat unpredictable. But even then, a day in the life quickly becomes tedious to play. But I have to say, it's that unmistakable Spectrum vibe that keeps a day in the life interesting. There's definitely that delicate knife-edge balance between drab 1980s British reality and a bizarre colour-clash dreamscape that is held on every screen. A day in the life of this fictional Clive Sinclair is an 8-bit acid trip, almost certainly nothing like the life of the real man himself, but it is an affectionate tribute nonetheless. I'm guessing you'll learn practically nothing about Clive Sinclair, the man, from playing this game, but you will sample a perfect cross-section of the odd gaming culture of a very specific time and place, which could not have blossomed without the work of the same man. It might not be the sort of legacy he hoped for a renowned and respected inventor, but I hope the idea of being remembered in this unique and surreal way would have brought a smile to his giant, disembodied face. Alright folks, that was my video of a day in the life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, it's just for fun and not to be taken too seriously. If you did like this video, then please press that like button or leave a comment, but not too geeky, eh? However, as always, it would be massively appreciated if you consider subscribing to my little channel. Now that would be good. Until the next time, bye bye. Oh, and Sir Clive Sinclair, you're a legend. Just saying.